Yeah, so like I was saying, if you live in a neighborhood where there's 10 homes with children in them, 40% of those have guns in them, many stored unlocked and loaded. So what happens in a very practical standpoint is several years ago I was with my two kids who were 2 and 5 at the time. Went up to visit a friend, and she was working, and so she told me where the key was and said, well, you know, make yourself at home and I'll meet you there. And so the kids and I, for about an hour, you know, hung out. I made sure that my little one couldn't get into the Clorox underneath the sink and that kind of stuff. And then that evening we had dinner with her husband and decided to watch a TV show. And I said, well, I don't really want to have the kids watch what we're watching. So my friend said, well, let's have them go upstairs and they can watch a movie in our bedroom. And I said, oh, fantastic. And her husband turned to her and said, we need to move the guns. And I said, what guns? And he said very nonchalantly, oh, we have 2 loaded handguns in our nightstands upstairs in our bedroom. And I realized that my kids had been in and out of that room for a couple, you know, for an hour earlier that afternoon. So, right, you know, a nightstand is right where the kids could pull that out of the drawer. And that really made me think, I never thought about this question. So I thought I was being this great mom because I'm really concerned about their safety and I'm making sure that they're safe. But here they are, there's 2 loaded handguns right within reach. And so I heard about the Asking Saves Kids campaign and I thought, man, this is really perfect because it's not a question that people think to ask. And so when I started asking it, it was kind of difficult because you really feel, Elliot, like you're asking somebody, how much money do you make? You know, it's like this personal question. And I found that it's really not, because it's a safety question. So I ask other kinds of questions all the time when my kids would go to people's houses. I'd ask them, you know, what's the rating of the videos? If they went somewhere in the car, do you have seatbelts for all of them? Those kinds of things. So it's just a simple question that I would ask on top of the other questions. And I've yet to have anybody be offended by this question because I'm asking from a safety standpoint because really that's what it's about. And the interesting thing about this campaign is even if you go on the NRA website, they have a thing on there about the Eddie Eagle program, which states, you know, don't have guns where children are. The difference between this program and the Eddie Eagle program is the Eddie Eagle program, it really makes sure that kids aren't around guns, but they're responsible for their own safety. So it's all about if you see a gun, then you need to go to another room and tell an adult. This program I love because it's the parents that are in charge of making sure the kids are never in that situation where they have to make a decision on their own safety.
Well, they're also not qualified to make that decision. And I've seen videos produced by the Pediatric Association where they show that kids who have been young kids, you know, say 4 and younger, 5 and younger, have been told to exactly, if they find a gun, come into the next room, you know, report it. And they're put into tests where they're shot, you know, where they're observed and video is taken of them. And every kid that found a gun started playing with it. Not one kid turned it in.
Well, yeah, absolutely. You're right. Kids are not qualified to make that decision. And certainly, I mean, I can't keep my kids out of the cookie jar, right? And I'll tell people, look, my son is very curious and he gets into things he's not supposed to. So I need to make sure that there's no loaded guns in your house that he can get into. And then I'll bring it up that way. And the other easy way to ask is oftentimes I'll use humor. And I'll say, you know, my son's not allergic to peanuts, but he's allergic to bullets. So there can't be a gun in the house where he's playing.
Now let me ask you a question. I'm sure in your asking, and I know you have, that you've had people give you an answer you didn't like, saying, yes, we keep the guns upstairs, they're in a closet, or, they're not locked, they are loaded, whatever. Have you then said, well, you're not sending your child over? What did you do?
Well, here's the one thing I learned early on. You do not show up with Billy on the doorstep with the big present for the birthday party and ask the question on the doorstep, right? Because there's too much pressure. And so if they say, yeah, we've got guns and they're all over the house, and yeah, they're loaded, like, you're in that situation. You're not going to say, sorry, Billy, we got to go back home, because the kid's going to freak out. So you don't put yourself in a situation where it's a difficult decision to make. So I tell people, make sure you call beforehand and establish that relationship, and put it with other questions. I have had people who, when I've called them beforehand, have said stuff. There's like a hesitation, and then they'll say, well, we have squirt guns. And it's sort of weird. And so when I get that feeling inside my gut, like, this is weird, or they hesitate before they say, well, yeah, I think so. Because sometimes moms don't even know what their deal is with their guns. So when I feel that, then I'll ask and say, well, hey, you know what? Actually, it would work better if he came to our house. And so I'll invite them to come to our house. Because the thing in my head that always is there is, if I don't ask this question because I'm embarrassed, or I don't ask this question because I'm scared of the response, like, what's it going to feel like when I get that call that my son's been shot or my daughter's been killed? It's like totally, and that motivates me every time.